Welcome back. So we are Saturday afternoon. Did everybody have a nice lunch? Good, good. Lovely. Welcome back to the second half of today. Obviously this morning we've been looking at the planning and structure of a presentation. We're just getting to that point now where once you've got the bones there, the structure of it there, the why, what, how, what if, everything could flow a lot more easily from this point. So what we want to do now, and did everybody get a chance to kind of write some notes just on any kind of talk, a little bit of notes? If you haven't done it yet, I understand it feels like, oh, I need to really think about it. I just encourage you to just write one line, one line on each, in each box. Why would somebody need this information, or why would somebody do this call to action? What do they need to know? How would they actually do it? And when would they do it? And what could they do after that? All you need for now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at the ways that you can bring this to life, which arguably for me is the most fun bit. So we're going to start off looking at what we're up against in the terms of the audience psychology. What are we dealing with? And why do we need to put in any audience psychology, right? Why do we need to think about it? If we've got this brilliant format model that should work, right? A convincing argument as to why they should do it, what they need to do, how they could do it and even when to do it, surely that's enough. This section is not just about the having fun, but it's also about what are we up against that we need to think about on top of just having a logical argument. And this is where we can start to have some fun. So communication is not so much of the old kind of diagrams for this used to be like a communicator and a receiver, and there's noise in the way. And for me, that didn't really work, because actually communication is not about receiving a message. Your audience isn't sitting there kind of a conduit to your intellect, right? They're not just receiving your brilliance and processing it. They're interpreting it. And it's going through several filters that make what you're saying potentially come out in an entirely different way to the way that you intended it, right? Like it's like baking a cake. You did everything right, you thought, and then you put it in the oven and it comes out like a pancake, right? And this is a true story. I have never been able to make the American cookies. I have never been able to make those really melty American cookies that are just amazing. You can buy them. I've never been able to make them. I followed recipes. And finally, recently, I made a couple of batches with a recipe, and I thought, oh my God, that's it. I've hit the jackpot. I thought, God, I've hit the jackpot. I've made these cookies. These are the most amazing cookies in the whole wide world. And then I made them again, and they completely failed. Like, they just literally were like bits of like crystallized sugar almost. I was like, what went wrong? What did I do? And so we don't want to take anything for kind of as a chance. We don't want to kind of go, oh, I think I've got it now. We want to know exactly, we want to be Heston Blumenthal level understanding of why our message got through or it didn't get through, so we can learn from it, we can get better. We want to be, I want to phone him up and say, mate, why did they not rise? They didn't, what happened? And for him to kind of go, right, well, we've got a checklist, Jess, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. What did you do wrong? Okay, got it now. Because I've got to make those cookies again. I've got people counting on me. I've got small people who are literally counting on me to make those cookies again. Because now that I've made them, I refuse to buy them. Like, it is out there. So if only I understood when it works, why does it work? And when it doesn't work, why doesn't it work? And this is the bit of audience psychology. So when your audience doesn't get your message, when it doesn't land, when you get the call to action followed, why not? If you didn't make the sale, why did you not make it? These are the questions that I obsess over. So as you can see, so imagine a simple message. Somebody says to their friend, oh, I have jury duty. And they respond, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Now, what's gone on there in order for them to respond that way? So one person's just said a fact, I've got jury duty. The other person has interpreted that to mean that's a bad thing. So it's gone through their brain, their set of their categories of, what's jury duty? Oh yeah, that's a bad thing. To then for them to select the response, I'm sorry to hear that. When in actual fact, the belief by the person who's saying it could be, I'm so excited. Like Gloria on Modern Family, where she tries to get the jury duty, is a hilarious episode if you haven't seen that. But some people really want to do it, or they're really into the case and really into the psychology of it and so on. The other person has a belief jury duty is boring, and therefore they would interpret that as, oh no, that's awful, sorry. So you think you have a message. It is not the words that we say. It's the sum total of what that person interprets and the way that they respond. So that's what we're going to look at now, is what we're up against that makes our message sometimes get completely lost. So we've got 3 filters that we're going to be looking at. So the human being has an entire map of the world. All of you that have done NLP, you obviously know this. I'm going to give you a quick refresher. But we have an entire map of our world. Since the day that we're born, we're categorizing, we're understanding, we're making sense of our world, adding meanings to things. That's good, that's bad, that's this, that's the other. Cat has 4 legs, cats have 2 eyes, and so on and so on. So when something happens outside of us, we're interpreting it through our experiences to know how to respond to it, like what it means. So our experience of jury duty might be things that we've seen on TV, might be our own personal experience. We will have formed a belief about whether that's good or bad or not, or we wouldn't have formed a belief because we don't know. And then when somebody says it, it goes through our map of the world. Oh, what's jury duty? Oh, it's this. Is that good or it's bad? How do I respond to this question? And then we respond. Or how do we respond to that statement? The 3 filters that help deal with this in bulk amount of information that we're receiving, hundreds of thousands, millions of bits of information every second, is using 3 filters called deletion, distortion, and generalization, that help us to reduce the amount of overwhelm. Like, imagine how much information you're bombarded with constantly. Generalize it, categorize it. What does that mean? Give a meaning to it. And then this is the fun bit. Distortion is where the evidence or the information coming in is ambiguous. And what our brain does, because it doesn't like confusion, it doesn't like what we call cognitive dissonance, it says, right, I'll make that fit a category. So I'll twist it a little bit to make it fit that one. And so that's where we get a lot of misunderstandings, miscommunications, where somebody said, I never said that. Like, that's not what I said. That's what you heard, but that isn't what I said. And in presentations, that can be an absolute nightmare. Because if you say something and it's misinterpreted because somebody has a foregone conclusion of what you're trying to say, this is when they'll react to it very quickly and you'll lose the room, right? So it's really important that we are super aware that everything that we say is being filtered through the belief systems of the people in front of us and their experiences. And we need to stack the deck in our favour, that what we're actually trying to say is what is actually received and understood. Okay. Now, sometimes we can tell that it's not landing because of the response, and other times we won't know because they won't tell us. We'll only find out kind of later on that something that we said either was missed or misinterpreted or just sheerly kind of miscategorized. So we're going to go through that now. So the first thing is count the number of blue things in the room. So if you look around your room, wherever you are, the office, count the number of blue things in the room. The more you look, the more you'll see. Look how much information you have around you. There is so much information. You may have to do some distortion here. So you may have to decide, is that blue or green? Does that count as, does teal count as green or blue to you? There may be some colours that are on the cusp, and you might have to say, I'm going to call that blue. I've got quite a few teal things. I'm going to call that blue, or I'm going to call that green, and not count it. Yeah, you see how that process is working? When you've thought you've got a near number, nearest 5, let's say, when you think you've got a number, if it's got blue on it, count it. That's easier. When you think you've done it, close your eyes, okay? So you've got that number of blue things, roughly, in your room. Tell me the number of red things you counted. How many red things are in your room? How many purple things? How many yellow things? How many pink things? Yeah, I'm guessing that none of you know. So if you open your eyes now, let's say, if you weren't looking for it, naturally, your brain didn't register it. Your reticular activating system in your brain is trying to help you by reducing the workload and really prioritize information that is helpful to your survival. And it knows that because of what you're focused on, what you're trying to think about and what you're feeling about. So that tends to be what it does. So you are trying to reduce 11 million bits per second to a manageable amount, which is about 126 bits per second, or 7 plus or 2 plus or minus 2 chunks. So when we have a phone number to remember, we try and do it in chunks because it's a bit easier. We try and get a rhythm to it because it sounds easier. But we are up against it. So when you're in front of an audience, you have what's going on in their lives. You have their phones, you have their devices, you have their stresses. You have a lot that you're up against. So we need to come up with ways that we can overcome that, and we shall. Okay, all right. The next thing is the generalization. So actually, I wonder if most of the time you're probably never aware of that moment in your life that you start to generalize. But you know that moment where for every single human being, there's a point at which you might point to a chair and tell your small child, or you were told that's a chair, and then they pointed at something else and they said that's a chair. But up until that point, everything had its own name. Everything was unique and singular. And suddenly, they just blew your mind because they said, no, there is something called category chair, of which these two are members. So a chair can be more than one thing. My daughter hasn't generalised that people can have names yet, other than their other names. So when we say, what's daddy's name? Daddy. And what's mummy's name? Mummy. When we say, no, mummy's name's also Jessica. No, it's not. No, she hasn't learned that we have names and mummy and daddy's is a title. Not there yet. She can't fathom that yet. So we have to learn these things. We have to learn that there are names for things, there are categories, there are characteristics, for each of those categories. Once we've learned it, though, that's when the trouble starts. Because at that point, see, my child has learned my name is Mummy. And now we're trying to explain to her that she needs to sort of unlearn it. There's resistance. So once we feel like we know something, the level of certainty is so lovely that we think we know it. We don't want the ambiguity and we don't want the confusion of being shown contradictory evidence. So we resist it. And so what our brain tends to do is look for the evidence that proves what we already know is true. And it tries to dismiss evidence that would confuse us or make it ambiguous. This is called the law of confirmation bias, and this is one of the biggest problems that you're up against as a speaker, as a presenter, is what people already think that they know that you want to change, that you want to challenge or change a little bit. Okay, there will be naturally a resistance to that, and transformation happens when you can pace where somebody is currently and move them slowly towards where you want them to be. So they're not wrong. You're not giving them contradictory information. You're giving them the same information that they believe. And then from there, you help form a bridge to where it is that you want them to go. So this is hugely important. When you think of like a belief system where people have got a belief system that's completely opposite to where you want them to be.
I think the corporate environment has this, just thinking more about my work head rather than my business head, where it's like presentations need to be a certain way, they need to be corporate, they need to be professional, they need to be given this amount of information. And I think that is sometimes the perceived way that it needs to be done to get to the outcome, whereas trying to do it different would then feel different, but from my perspective, in a good way.
Right, that's it. So for you, when you do your planning and you have to think, right, what do these people already believe? What do they expect? What's comfortable for them? And then think about how you can perhaps pick them up and take them somewhere in a really nice way. Yeah. And that's a real art form to do that. So that's the pacing and leading that we do in NLP. We build rapport with where they're at, and then once they've kind of got us by the hand and they're willing and they trust us, that we can show them a different way of being. Educating people in your corporate environment might take a bit of time. So it might be pacing and leading where they're at currently and adding a little bit of change and then a little bit more, and kind of very slowly, potentially. Okay. So we're also dealing with that distortion, and distortion is the worst because it's where that isn't what I said, but because of your belief system, that is what you heard. I'm trying to think of an example. There's been so many where I've been talking to an audience and I've noticed, because again, sensory acuity is helpful, I've noticed something's not right. That there's like people looking at each other or something. Oh, actually, no, here's a light version, because there's been some heavy ones, but there's a light version in my experience where I said, in America, we'd been invited over to train people in the States, in Palm Beach. And Nick and I was doing it on day one, and I was sort of building credibility. I was talking, about how Nick and I had been training for a really, really long time. Anyway, I used the phrase, "We've been doing this for donkeys." Now, They don't have that phrase in that room. So what do you think that they thought I meant?
Actual donkeys.
Actual donkeys. So it really was like looks of like, like, what is this? Is this a joke? Like, people have come here to talk to us about coaching and NLP, and actually they work with animals? Like, what? And they were so confused. I thought, hang on a minute, something's not landed here. And I had to stop and kind of say, can I just ask, did I say something? And they went, I think we're all a bit confused about the donkeys, Jess. Thank God they were open enough to tell me. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, you do this with donkeys? Oh no, okay, right, here we go. Yes. So because they heard what they heard, imagine the distortion is like, okay, how do I make that make sense? I have to make that make sense in terms of, okay, they work with animals? That's weird. Rather than them say, sorry, that doesn't, what did you mean? They automatically assumed something because of their belief systems or something. So if you can notice that something's not landed, I mean, that's the lighter versions, the less enjoyable versions, and where they mishear you say something and they think that you've said something awful, and you can see suddenly there's, the whole audience turns against you, and it's just literally the microphone cut out or something. So it could be something unfortunate, like women are, let's say women are, microphone drops out, superior to men, right? And it should have said, not superior to men or something awful like that, and everyone's like, oh, how did you say that? Or yeah, things happen. So paying attention and realizing that what people hear and they react to is based on their beliefs, and they can twist what you hear. So we need to make sure our message easy to understand, so that nobody has to work really hard to understand. There's loads of things that we can do to make it just simple. Nobody wants to work very hard to understand a presentation, and if they do have to work hard, they'll probably not bother unless they are highly motivated to learn the thing. But at university, when none of the lecturers made an effort, the emphasis was, well, do you want to pass exams? You better do it yourself then. Whereas if it's a TEDx talk, if your audience has to really rack their brains, like, really, I can't understand what, they'll just phase out and listen to the next one. Yeah. So you have to make it easy. We need it to be memorable. Otherwise, we don't want to be non-memorable. We don't want to be forgotten. It needs to be really clear so that people don't misinterpret it. And of course, it needs to be engaging as well. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to make it easy to understand. We're going to make it memorable, make it clear, and we're going to make it engaging. All right. That's what we're going to do. All right, lovely. So the first thing that we're going to do, making things easy to understand. Something that IKEA have been doing for donkey's years. So they've been doing it for donkeys, I love IKEA or not, I love it. And I love these funky diagrams. But I reckon even you guys could misinterpret what these diagrams are trying to say. So let's be super facetious. What is the first diagram potentially saying? If we really want to try and misunderstand that diagram, what's it saying?
Eat tools.
So yes, but first you have to find tools that are as tall as you. That's very important. You can't do it unless the tools are as tall as you are, but then you have to eat them. Yes, very good. Yeah. And you won't believe, people can misunderstand anything. So this is, I don't know about you, I read my WhatsApp messages and at least 3 or 4 times if it's important, because I'm going through going, how would they misinterpret that? And then I'm very, very careful to be clear as much as I can do. But making it easy to understand is the first bit. What about the second diagram? How could we misinterpret that?
Yeah, I see something naked.
Yeah, don't do it naked, whatever you do. Yeah. What else?
Give it away.
That's it. Give it to somebody else. Yeah, absolutely. Don't do it naked. Find a naked friend and do it with them. Yeah.
And potentially beat yourself
Don't
up.
do it on your own.
Don't do it on your own.
Don't do it on your own. You need 2 people, because doing it on your own, you're tilting back and you look angry. Doing it with another person, you're smiling with
That's
whatever your
it.
clothes are. Your back is
Your
going to
back
be
will
straight.
hurt.
You're not going to be in pain, so you should be smiling. Sorry.
I love
IKEA
it. So,
sales are going up with all of this.
what's that?
IKEA sales will go up with all of this.
I think it's great. And then the final one, how could we potentially misunderstand?
Don't stay with question marks, looking annoyed, because they are all the languages and I can never understand them. Phone us up for help. Phone IKEA.
So that's what they are trying to say, obviously. Is there a way that we could misunderstand that? Is that so clear and easy to understand that it's impossible to misinterpret, if you want to be really facetious?
Expect an empty box.
Expect an empty box, yes.
No, you could say that they're already made a foregone conclusion that the customers are not going to understand their leaflets. So therefore, we're already asking you for help. The customer can think, do you think I'm stupid? I know what to do. Why are you assuming that I'll need your help immediately? But that's, again, being facetious. It's just they're offering help, but not in the best way possible.
I would also say it's very possible that the younger members of our society wouldn't know what he's actually holding, because they'd be like, why is that phone got a rope on the end of it? What's that all about?
It's funny. I thought you meant the leaflet, because they'd probably be Googling it. They wouldn't even hold the leaflet. I was like, why? I've got a YouTube that I can go and look at that on how to assemble, was it a Billy cabinet?
Yeah, Billy bookcase, yeah. That's it. So they've done a really good job, I think, of these diagrams. Obviously, everything is open to interpretation. You do lose when you make it easy to understand. Of course, you're going to lose a bit of detail. Yeah, potentially. So you've got to be aware that even when you think you've made it easy, there's still room for misinterpretation, and that's okay. Like, there's a margin of error. If you're doing training, obviously that matters more. So you'll build in interactions to make sure that people have got it. You'll do the exercises so that the feedback from the exercise will tell you, yeah, they haven't got it. So this is a brilliant method. So diagrams, 100%. If you can draw a diagram, do that, right? Rather than explain it. If you've got analogies and you've got something complicated that you want to explain, analogies are the best way. Now, this is obviously, I do a lot of relationship coaching, couples, and I would say one of the the best thing that you can ever learn to do in your relationship is use analogies. Because, for example, when I've got somebody in front of me where perhaps a couple is having the, do we want kids discussion or not? And perhaps the partner is saying, like, I don't understand what her rush is. Yeah, I don't understand what her rush is. There's plenty of time. Why do we have to have kids now? My analogy for perhaps the male partner is to say, I want you to imagine that all the money that you'll ever earn, you have to earn by the time you're 45. And if you haven't earned all the money that you'll ever earn by the time you're 45, you'll never earn another penny again. And you want to start a business, and your partner's like, what's the rush? What's the rush? We can open a business anytime. Yeah? Not if all the money you'll ever earn is done by the time you're 45, as a man. Does that make sense? You have to just put it into words that they can understand, because the idea of a biological clock, not necessarily everyone can relate to. So by using analogies, I think most of the time that's when you get the like, oh, I get it, right? That makes sense to me. So analogies are my husband literally like physiological reaction to whenever I say, look, it's a little bit like, and he literally has this physiological reaction because he knows that I'm going to make him see my point of view. Examples, you can pretty much teach anything with 3 examples. Have a think about whether that's true or not. Yeah, if I give you 3 examples of something, you can pretty much extrapolate the learning from it. Examples, absolutely critical. You might need to break something down if you're training. You might need to think, that's quite a big chunk to teach. Why don't we break that down into smaller chunks first and build up to that big chunk? And no matter how well you understand something, do not assume that it's easy. Plus, not everyone's going to get it in the what section. If you're teaching something, some people may only get it in the what if section. So they'll listen to the information, doesn't make any sense. They'll do the exercise, okay, I think I'm starting to understand it now. And in the what if section, when they think about applying it in their life, suddenly it clicks. So just that's another reason why making something easy to understand means going through each of those quadrants in the format. Okay, so quick thinking then. With your message, with your talk, I would love for you to use at least one of those. I mean, examples, 100%. If you've got stories, that will kind of fit into the analogies, examples a little bit. But if you've got any concepts that you're teaching or that you're talking about that I might not be able to relate to. So if you're talking about unmasking and you have neurotypical people in the room, you might have to give them an analogy for them to even understand what you're talking about, what masking is. Yeah. So for them, you'd have to paint some sort of picture about what for them it would feel like. There's There's videos that you could play that demonstrate the sensory overwhelm somebody's experiencing, for example. So I'd love you to choose diagram, analogy, example, something that makes what you're saying easier to understand.
Did you want us to put the picture or the diagram in the chat, or just talk you through
No,
it?
just when you're working on it, then you do it. It's just an invitation to add it into your talk and start thinking about it. You don't have to do it now. We'll go through.
Sorry, just a question. The talk, did you want us, when you said to talk through it, did you want us to prepare a presentation to end the talk, or I thought we were just talking the 7-minute thing?
The 7 minutes is whatever you want it to be. It's your 7 minutes.
Oh, this is what you're saying, just generally in presentation to have diagrams. Is that what you're saying?
If one is required, yes, obviously.
Yeah, no, sorry, I just panicked a bit because I've got it written, but I didn't think about PowerPoint and yeah, no, I've got an image. Thank you.
That's it. So often when I'm talking in the corporate space, I always say try and ditch the PowerPoint if you can. It's just good practice to sometimes just pretend the tech broke so that you know that you can do it without. Just do it without the tech. But a lot of people say, but we have these.
You preach, absolutely. Where do I sign up?
So So if you can do a diagram, again, it's more because you understand it. But the people that are really intellectual, so teachers, for example, where they're really, really like PhD level and they're chosen to teach because of their exceptional academic prowess, often make the worst teachers because they can't fathom what you don't understand. And often the best teachers are the ones who are actually closest to you in the level of understanding, because they're the closest to you in having to have work to understand it. So when you first learn something and you've had to go through that discomfort to learn it, go teach it immediately, because you'll probably be in that sweet spot of just brilliant at teaching it. And they'll ask questions that'll make you go, oh, I don't know that bit. Let me find that out. It's a wonderful thing to do. But yeah, the more intellectual that you get, the less easy it is to understand what don't you get. It's obvious, to everybody else. So I like the teachers who had to work to understand it. They're my favourite.
There's a term for that. They call it the curse of knowledge.
Oh, is that an actual thing?
It is, yeah. Curse of knowledge.
That'll be a 10x talk, man. That'll be the curse of knowledge.
It sounds ominous, doesn't it?
If you haven't already got yours.
Yeah, with the number of people who don't understand me, I don't mind taking that title.
The NHS coins it another way. They call it the KISS syndrome. Keep it serious, keep it simple, stupid, which I don't like. I just say keep it seriously simple. So the idea is that you have to develop a process or flowchart that someone off the street can walk into any pharmacy or health center, has no background or any knowledge, and can follow the process and reach the same conclusion or end with the same product. Keep it simple, seriously simple. I don't like this stupid bit because that's just too.
Perfect. Yes, I love it. All right. So next thing that we need to do is we need to make things stand out of this 1 million bits per second that's bombarding our audience. We want to be the thing that they remember. So here's an exercise that you can all do. So have a piece of paper or something. If you've got a notepad available, this is the time to get it near you. Don't use it just yet, but get it near you. Or if you can type on your computer, get ready to type on your computer, but don't type yet. I'm going to read a list of 25 words, and I just want you to memorize them, okay? And see how many you remember, right? So don't write them down, because that's just writing. You want to see if you can memorize them, all right? I know you can write them, so don't do that. All right, everybody ready? Everybody ready? Good. Ice cream, frog, man, floor, fridge, table, coat, medal, cheese, milk, eggs, butter, river, wall, table, filing cabinet, amazing, holiday, paper, car, table, pencil, mountain, mousetrap. Okay, write down as many as you can remember. Give me a minute. Almost there. Half of you finished. Now, how many do you think that you got right? Let's pop in the chat. How many words have you got? I was going to say, don't give them away. Then if I've got that one, and then they'll write that one down. Oh, good. Okay, so that's good. So 6, 10, 9, 13, 12, 16, 17. Very good. 12, I might have made up a couple. Yeah, 18, really good.
I wrote like 9 of them, but I'm sure of 6.
Lovely, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so let's pop in the All right, let me go through them. I was going to do something cool with AI, but it's not working on my computer. All right, so let's go through and see. Put them in the chat what you've got. Let's have a little look. What have we got? Oh, okay, good, brilliant. All right, so what we're going to do. So, Gina, you had 9. You said, yeah, but you're sure of 6. So what I'm interested in here is the lower numbers, not the higher numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, I got 8. I got 8 and sure of 6. The one which I was really sure of was River. Isn't that your daughter's name, right?
True, yes.
So yes, I attached the image of your daughter to it and it just stayed in my mind.
So let's take yours, Gita. Okay. Okay. Who got Mousetrap? Yeah, show of hands, who got Mousetrap? Yeah, almost everyone who got Mousetrap. Who got Table? Show of hands, who got Table? Good, again, almost everybody. Who got Frog? Good, almost everyone. Who got River? Yeah, half. Who got Ice Cream? Yeah, good, another half or so, just over half. Mountain? Good. And who got Butter? Yeah, okay, good, almost everyone. Who got Amaze? Good, so quite a good number. So here's the question then. Of the ones that Gita got, why did almost all of you have all of those? Why did everybody get Mousetrap?
Because it was last.
Because it was the last.
Because you remember the last thing, don't you?
You do remember the last thing.
I actually heard it as I was listening, and I heard, closed my eyes, and I heard it as tap, so I wrote tap. But now that you say trap, obviously that's it's
great
classic
example of distortion, right? So
yeah, exactly. And I knew it was the last thing, something
lovely. So we've got. And why? What about Table? Why did everybody get Table?
You repeated that 3 times.
Yeah, you said it
3 times.
definitely twice.
Yeah, that's it. And what's really interesting is people say, "Oh, yeah, you said it twice." It's like actually, I said it 3 times.
3 times.
But
Beginning, middle, and end.
Oh my God, I heard it once.
I heard it once.
3 times. Beginning, middle, and end. It's like a story. It was the beginning, you see? Beginning, middle, and end. When you're teaching dyslexics, they mix it all up, so.
What about Amazing? Why did everybody get Amazing?
Yeah, you elongated it. It was great.
Yeah.
I did not hear that one at all, which is weird, but because that's a feeling, I guess. And I was in my head, I was.
Oh, that's interesting. How do you make a picture of it? Like if you're
Yeah.
a visual thinker, right? How do you make a picture of that?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I was visualizing all the things. The river, I didn't know it was your daughter's name, so apologies. But the river, the ice cream, the man. I'm making a story in my head. The man is going by the river and eating an ice cream on a sunny day, and did not even hear Amazing or Mousetrap.
There's a really good one about ice cream. Why did so many people get ice cream?
Love ice cream.
Yeah, it's hot, and that's what I'm thinking of doing this afternoon. And I love this song, I Scream, You Scream, We All Scream, and scream and shout and let it all out. That's what I say to my students at the end of exams. Go by the river, eat an ice cream.
And we've got an accentuated in that you felt it. Like it's an ice cream, it's something that made your body go, and I like ice cream. It had a feeling about it, which made it more accentuated in your own body as opposed to in your ears. So it touched your senses, let's just say. And River, how many of you got River? The people that know me probably more closely probably would as well, because they've like it wasn't supposed to be on there because of her, but actually that makes sense. It's because it's linked, it's associated, it's you already know, oh, that's relevant to ice cream's relevant to the sunshine. We've been talking about it. I'm going to do it. River's my daughter's name. The other one that's linked can often be the eggs. Did everybody get eggs, butter, and milk?
I forgot about the eggs and butter. I almost wrote dairy as a cop out.
Right.
I just remembered the milk and cheese in the end.
That's it. So linked together can often help. It's like, oh, those are ingredients. The danger of that, though, when you're talking about things that people already kind of relate together, is that I might have said eggs, butter, milk, and so on. Somebody else might go, oh, I think there was eggs, butter, milk, flour, like cake ingredients. And they might start to embellish because of their category, their generalizations about what that ingredients list should be. So
I definitely went cake.
I went with cupboard because when you said that, I kept thinking kitchen cupboard. That's where you open to find the kitchen cupboard, because you were talking about the cookies earlier. What do I have in my kitchen cupboard? Yeah, I have cookies there. She was talking about cookies, so she's talking about cupboards. It's weird that, honestly, that's how my weird,
So we've got things that are linked either to things audience likes or linked together that make a category of things. Perfect. And then again, at the end, where people's attention kind of comes back in. So does that make Does that make sense in terms of how we can be using that in our presentations to stack the deck in our favour? Because what I don't want you to have to do is to remember that. So the way that I've already kind of done this for you is by incorporating this tell. So the repetition. I've incorporated the repetition into the template. So right at the beginning, tell them what you're going to tell them. So I'm going to talk today about 3 main points, 1, 2, and 3. Then you make your 3 points, 1, 2, and 3. And then at the end, you tell them what you said. So you make the points again. So in summary, yeah, we've talked about this, we've talked about this, we've talked about this. So it's incorporated for you into the template so you don't have to remember it. Because that's got to be a winner, not having to remember. Yeah, I've got to make it memorable. There are other things that we're going to do that's built in as well. But this one, I want you to have little games. I want you to get back into your rooms. So hopefully we can think this could work. If I open all the rooms, they should be exactly as they were before. If you've left and come back, I'll put in the chat the layout so you know what room to go into. But I think at this point it's fine if you just take a punt in a room. So the tell. So I want you to basically right now look at your desk or whatever's in front of you, and as long as it's not, you know, a living thing, grab something. All right. So I'm going to grab my very sexy hair tie here. It's all the rage. Everybody got something? I want it in your hand before we continue. You can't change your mind. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a process called tell. I'm going to sell it to you by telling you the 3 points the 3 selling points of this hair tie. Then I'm going to tell you the 3 selling points, and then I'm going to summarize the 3 selling points. And none of you are going to know what the selling points are. You're going to have to improv it, but you're going to do it in your groups. So you're not going to have to do it live in front of everybody. I will do one to demonstrate. So I haven't thought about this. I picked something at random. So, right, today I'm going to talk to you about this amazing, revolutionary hairband. I'm going to talk to you about 3 main aspects of this hairband. I'm going to talk to you about the durability. I'm going to talk to you about its style, and I'm going to talk to you about its problem-solving abilities. So firstly, the durability. It is absolutely indestructible. This thing's going to last you. You'll only ever need to buy one. This is completely indestructible. Secondly, the style of it. You know, if it's never been in style, it can't go out of style, is what I say. So if it's never been the rage, yeah, it'll never go out of style. So this style is a neutral style that won't actually cause you to be in or out of any kind of vibe, because it's going to last you a lifetime. So we want it to be in style or out of style forever. Thirdly, the problem-solving abilities. When you have hair that is in your face and you are trying to get something done, and your hair is in your face and the wind is blowing it across your hair, all you need is a hair tie, and you can accomplish anything once you've got your hair out of your face. And this problem-solving ability, not only will it do that, but a bag of flour, you can use it to keep that bag of flour tight, airtight, literally anything you can think of that needs tying up, including maybe, you know, rogue children. This will, you know, get their little fingers out of the cookie jar. This is so versatile. It's going to solve every problem that you have. Okay. So as I've talked about the durability, the lifetime guarantee. I've talked about the style, the fact that it has no style, therefore it can never go out of style. And I've also talked about the incredible problem-solving properties of this hair tie. And if I had a call to action, this is when I would give it to you, and I would say, buy one, get one for a friend. Buy it now before they all run out. Thank you very much. Everybody got the idea? The sillier the better. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Heike, for the applause. Thank you. That's so nice. That is it. Just for a bit of fun, bit of improv, bit of silliness. Hopefully, you know, I've set the tone for the level of silliness now. Let's get into your groups and just have a really good laugh for 5 minutes or so and do this exercise. Get it in the muscle so you'll never ever forget it. And whatever you've grabbed, keep that, even if it's challenging to sell it. Alrighty. Let's try the room system. I've got a lot of unassigned people. I'll try and put you back in the groups that you were in. Here we go. Let me put this in the chat for those of you that haven't got a room. Nels, you were 4?
Yeah, 4. Thank you.
Brilliant. How did you get on with your tell? Did you all get enough time? think some groups had finished. How did you find it?
Fascinating.
Bored salespeople in your rooms, were there?
Gosh, there are some good salespeople out there.
I would say this is the number one
I
kind of
know.
way of kind of getting it in the muscle is the tell, but also the sell, the kind of just thinking in that mode. I love it. How many of you suffer from occasional brain fog? Occasional, whether that's from lack of sleep or a certain age or whatever. Yeah.
Don't ask at 51. Don't ask. I know you're getting towards there next year.
See next year, yeah. So, if you're ever getting the brain fog, this is something to remind yourself that even if all else is lost, that you've got this muscle that's in the unconscious, that you can just improv things. And I just think it's a really nice thing to stay sharp, is to improv all kinds of things. The best thing as a speaker is to know that you can. I think being able just to know, to trust yourself that you'll be okay. I think one of the big things that I think from doing coaching and hypnosis, particularly when I learned how to do that, there's this real sense of hypnosis I thoroughly recommend for anyone who really wants to trust that something will come out and that something sensible will come out. Practice doing hypnosis, even if it's the language from NLP, like the hypnotic language. Practice with somebody where you have to say something, because even if you're like, what should I say next? There has to be something. You have to come up with something. I think it's a really good skill to practice. But that tell, really good fun. Was there anybody that was exceptionally good, that was like hats off?
I thought Sarah Tates was exceptional with her.
Was she? I bet she was.
Oh, thanks, Wendy. I stole the squirrel from my dog, which really was not very happy about, but we managed to sell him based on comfort, nature, and joy.
How many of you, when you think about who was in your group, if I said you had to remember what they talked about, can you remember the points? So for those of you that liked Sarah's, did you remember that those were the points that she talked about? So that's the next thing, is when you think about who was doing the tell, can you remember the exact points? Yeah, can you remember them? Because technically they told you up front what they were going to say, and then they told you and expanded, and then they reminded you. You've got every chance that you did. And you'll notice the people that kind of forgot and just went into the 3 points because, panic set in, and they just started talking about 3 things, they might have been less memorable. Honestly, it's the tell. It's written into the formula, so you don't really have to think about it explicitly, but it is in there. All right. Everybody ready for the next piece that I think was in our manifesto right at the beginning? So this is an important one that we need to get right. And you also know it's important because you are a human being and you have sat through enough presentations to know this.
Jess, can I just ask a quick question? You said practice the hypnosis. Do you mean hypnotic language?
Yeah, or hypnosis. Like if I said to you, close your eyes, and I'm going to do some hypnosis now, I have to come up with something, don't I?
Yeah.
Because if I just do hypnotic language, that's fine. I've got to talk nonsense essentially for a period of time. If you do it in hypnosis, you've got a bit more time because you can take some long breaths and think about what you're going to say next. So it's easier to practice than, I've just got to use hypnotic language suddenly and remember what to say. And, yeah.
Just this happens a lot actually in coaching, because sometimes you have a certain plan for the client and then the client comes with something else. You need to improvise.
Absolutely. And you have to be able to say something.
Yeah, we have to say something.
You have to. Right. Another really good exercise, if any of you want those sort of brain exercises, apart from doing the apps, which, it's fine. One of the best, Nick and I couldn't be more nerdy, by the way. So if you were friends with Nick and I, what you get on screen is pretty much what you get with us all the time. And we will often say things like, right, number of jokes that you can tell about someone who works in an egg factory. And then for the next 10 minutes, we're like, oh, he was extraordinary at his job. And we'll just go play on words. The kids love it. We played it before we had kids. I can't pretend that was the reason. But like play on words, or another one, how is something like a something? So you pick 2 objects. Somebody picks an object, another person picks an object, and then you have to explain how a squirrel is like a cup. And you're allowed time to think, but you have to come up with why a squirrel is like a cup. Yeah, that's a chunking exercise for those of you that are really nerding out. It's just like making those synapses really earn their keep. And I just think anything that you can do that's like that, it just helps you sort of trust your brain a little bit that you can make those connections when it counts. Lovely. All right. So here's some other things that you can do. So we want it to be engaging. We want to feel want to be able to interact. I would love to have you guys in front of me physically, because for me, I just love the physicality of having an audience there where you can make eye contact and jokes around the coffee, the coffee table and stuff. Love all that. Online though, you can still do loads of stuff. Stories. We all obviously gone over how they're really engaging. Participation in letting people. This is why I don't put everybody on mute. Sitting through where it's all in the chat. Ugh. Like, no, let's all talk. That's how you would be if you were in a room together. It's much more realistic. Meet my needs. So does everybody remember the emotional needs? We'll cover them in a second, but love, certainty, significance. If you can light me up and make me feel safe, if you can make me feel important, if you can make me feel connected, I'm engaged. So not just selling me what I want, but make me feel loved, safe and significant. That's really important. Stimulate my senses and play with me, I think, are the next thing. So obviously in the corporate sense, what Sarah might be saying about, the way I want to present may be at odds with where some of them are at. And especially if you want to start, playing and interacting and, doing a few kind of more things that would help Sarah in her speaking career so that she could get practice now that wouldn't necessarily always fit the corporate market, they would, I think you would have a positive response, because, and this is why I say this, every single one of those people that looks really serious in that board meeting goes home and watches a colour TV. They go home and watch colour TV. Not obviously, some people don't have TV. I appreciate that, but they might read a thriller novel. Yeah, they might go home and watch, Jack Reacher. No, they might go home and watch. They might go home and just read, Civil War, kind of manuscripts. I don't know, but it is unlikely, isn't it? And even that's all about stories. So whatever you do, people like to be entertained. So even if you think, oh, no one does it here, no one adds a bit of interaction, no one does these sort of physical metaphors, nobody does the whole, doesn't matter, because every single person in that will, and I promise you, because I've spoken to so many thousands of people who have to sit through these presentations as well, they will thank you for being the only person that wasn't boring. So they will thank you if you made them laugh, if you were the colour versus the black and white, if you were the loud versus the monotone, people will thank you, even if it's not the done thing. So just remember, everybody goes home and they entertain in some way or another. They don't just read Civil War manuscripts or whatever. They do all kinds of things to entertain themselves. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that everybody's senses are engaged and entertained. So we want it to be physical or emotional. We want it to be, obviously, we have to be careful, obviously, about overwhelming. So Sarah's talked about energy and not being one or the other. But we do want to bring people's bodies into it, right? We do really want to do that. We want to bring sound into it, whether it's through our voice, whether it's through music, whether it's through video, somebody else's voice, discussion, talking. If you have visual aids, fantastic. Make sure they're not too overwhelming. But visually, you can be using your body, you can be using your facial expressions. And obviously, we all want the meat in the sandwich, as we call it. So if you go to presentations and they're purely popcorn, pure entertainment, that's okay. But most people want to take something away. They want to learn something. They want to take away. Has anybody watched a film or whatever and you go at the end of it, you're like, I am never getting that 2 hours back. Like, I learned nothing from that was useful at all. At least if you feel like you've had this experience, you've learned something about life, you've seen something, that'd be amazing. Has anybody watched a film where they felt like that afterwards? They're like, I'm never going to get that time back, am I? Should we name names? I can't remember mine off the top of my head, but I just,
The first Avatar.
Who is it?
The first Avatar. I mean, I haven't seen the others. I don't know why I said the first. And I love Sigourney Weaver, but I can't do it. And I love James Cameron.
Even for her, you weren't prepared to put up with it. No, absolutely. I say I give every film like 30 seconds of my full attention. And at the end of that 30 seconds, I can tell whether it's going to be a film I'm really going to like or not. First bit of dialogue, I'll know. So, because there are such great experiences, it's sad to sit on that's not really getting you. So lovely. All right. So we need to make sure that whatever it is that we put something intellectual, some learning, some benefit to having sat through the experience rather than just be pure entertainment. All right. So what I'd like you to think, just for a minute, I'm just gonna kind of have you think for a second about your 7 minutes. It is only 7 minutes, obviously, but what could you do that could hit all of those points? And there is something that hits all of those points. There is a technique that guarantees hitting all of those points, no matter what the setup.
Audience participation?
We can do audience participation. Yes, that definitely gets every one of those. And I'm a bit partial, Lucinda, to audience participation. So there is another technique that's even easier.
Oh, good.
How do we use savvy? So even if you were going to do that, Nels, how would you make it somatic? You know, either physical or emotional, auditory, visual, and intellectual at the same time. Stories does all of those. So when you tell a story, you're bringing somebody into the world that you're talking about, and you can make them feel what you want them to feel. So when you tell a story, you can bring them in, you can paint a picture, like the parachute jump. So I'm there, I'm sitting in there, my harness is loose. Who was with me in that plane when I was telling that story? Who was feeling like, oh my God? And you'd feel about whether you would want to jump out of a plane, or you might have felt excited because actually for you, that's like your jam, you know? Whatever, because I'm telling a story, you're playing it on in your head, your body's responding to it. So you're having a somatic experience as you're telling a story. Obviously, auditory, you're listening to the story, I'm emphasizing certain words emotionally, visually. You're doing it in your own head, which is way more powerful than me showing you a picture. If it's your own pictures that you're making in your head, amazing. And the intellectual piece is the what am I learning from this? And so there has to be a point to the story rather than just entertainment. But the best stories always have a moral, right? Always have a learning, yeah, something that we take back into real life that makes our life a little bit better. So the reason why a lot of the time, if you are limited on participation, right? If you're limited on participation, you can't physically have people get up and come to the front of the room or whatever it might be. Stories are how you can touch all the people from a emotional and kind of feel it in their bodies without having to move anywhere. Yeah, it's the absolute best technique and skill to learn. Everybody with me? Yeah. And then you can put all of those other things into the story. So you can put your why, what, how, what if, you can put your, was it yesterday, today, tomorrow, whatever the structures are, but the story is important. How are you telling the story? So we are going to do probably stories in full tomorrow, but I want to set you up for success in the stories. Okay. So in the manual, there is a really good example where if I was to say, I never said he stole the money, just noticing where the intonation is in the sentence completely changes the meaning of the whole sentence or the pictures that he makes. If you say, I never said he stole the money versus, I never said he stole the money, I never said he stole the money, or I never said he stole the money, or I never said he stole the money, just that intonation, and you've got 4 different ways of saying that same sentence. So it is quite easy to misinterpret each other. Okay, so we just have to be careful that when we're talking, we can be as clear as possible. And another thing to think about, for me, I think this is the important bit of this, there will always be misinterpretations because of distortion. If there was, might have been day 5 in the prac course that we do perceptual positions. If any of you've done the prac course, you know what perceptual positions is. Somebody on day 5 on one of my courses was so disappointed because they said since day 1 they've been really looking forward to learning about sexual positions. They thought that somehow NLPers were like, they had this extra book like of sexual positions, and I've been talking about it, you know, like, oh, I can't wait to do perceptual positions, it's my favorite technique, whatever, all the time. And they had literally heard it the first time wrong and then just distorted that that's what it was. And they were so disappointed when I said, you know, like, okay, this is what it is. So misinterpretations happen to everybody. We just have to try and be really careful and try and predict when they might occur. So something like this speech here. So, right, everyone, you'll be pleased to know that soon we'll be streamlining our store operations and job descriptions in order that we become more efficient and create more profits. Thank you very much. Back to work, everybody. Now, immediately, what are people potentially going to assume after that brief message about streamlining and
Job losses?
Naturally, yeah, especially if you've had the experience before where streamlining did mean that there would be redundancies and so on. My favourite is restructuring. That's such a lovely way of putting it, isn't it? Like, we're going to be restructuring. Yeah, we're not overtly saying it, but we are kind of saying it. So if you know that people know this, you have to be super careful that if you're not going to give very much detail, you need to reassure them that that's not what you mean. Yeah, so to be clear, we are streamlining operations, meaning we are going to come up with some better processes for you guys to use. Yeah, so that you can all do your jobs more efficiently and more easily. And we're going to be making your job descriptions clear so you won't be asked to do anything that's not in your remit, which hopefully will make you feel more certain in what you are doing. Thank you very much. Right, super, super clear. So that's what I mean is we assume people will just understand what we're trying to say and they won't necessarily understand what we're going to say if we don't spell it out. So if there is a need to spell it out, spell it out. Obviously it takes more time, but it is better than walking back something that people have misunderstood. All right. And then the other one is, how do you make the audience like you? Okay. So this is really important. So I know that when I stand in front of an audience, one of the things that I've been hired and paid a lot of money to do in my career is to talk to hostile audiences. Yeah, I didn't intend it to be that way. It just ended up being something that I could do. And then because most of my work is on referrals, people talk and then they say, oh, I've got a perfect person for you. And then they send them me. So my job was to stand in front of people who had very much made their mind up about a certain subject or a certain program or something. And ultimately they said, Jess, if you could just, bring them on board, change their minds about it, that'd be great. I didn't have a problem doing it because I knew that if I could just build rapport with them, that I would have enough influence to be able to help them to get what they needed to feel more comfortable with something. So it was never anything unethical or anything like, like, just be happier about the redundancies. It was never anything like that. It was always like, we're going to bring in this system or something and nobody wants it, right? That kind of thing where everybody's decided they don't want it. And that was very much more for me a translation between like a mediation almost. And so I knew that if they didn't like me, I wasn't going to have any influence. I wasn't going to have any ability to change their minds or change their perceptions or find out what was really going on. And that then puts the pressure on. How do I make them not love me? It's not like I want them to like me as a person. I just don't want them to dislike me because then they won't listen to anything. Yeah. So how did I win them over? So these are the things that I can absolutely bank on being helpful. The first one is loving them. Love is, if we had a superpower, it would be love. I absolutely stand by that. Like, love, unconditional positive regard is just so, if somebody loves you, genuinely loves you, like if somebody has compassion for you, sees the best in you, believes the best in you, it's really difficult to reject it. Even if they reject you, you still love them. That's quite compelling, isn't it? So if you can walk into a room full of compassion, no matter what, so you being angry is perfectly fine. You having any reaction to me is fine. It's okay. You can be you can feel anything, no one's cross. I'm just here to talk to you. That energy is so helpful. Has anybody got a memory of either a teacher or a presenter where they switched you off them really, really, like in one fell swoop, you just went, no? Can anybody remember? Have you got any stories? Pop them in the chat. If you've got some stories, what did somebody do that was like, that's it?
Does it have to be sort of personal or someone that you've just seen on TV?
It can be somebody that you saw on TV, but they just, what did they do that made you immediately just say, no, not listening, no, not interested?
Well, I used to have a massive crush on, well, one of several massive crushes on, there's a chef called Marcus Waring.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And he was on Saturday Kitchen. That's very sad. A long time ago. He made You know, poor thing, he probably didn't mean it, but he just made a disparaging remark about his wife. It was a 2-second thing. And then just like that, I just thought, and since then I've just, oh no. And he probably didn't mean it, but it was just almost, it wasn't as bad as, you know, her indoors, but it was sort of like it. And it was just really disparaging. And she might have found it funny had she been there, but she wasn't there. And I don't know the history. It just, I can't explain it. Just, no.
That's funny. So literally in that moment, you're like, no,
Yeah.
no, I love that. That is a huge values level rapport build, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I take away the almost like the reverse of the halo effect. It's the Gollum effect, whatever, where I now attribute nothing good to you because you failed my test. That's it. Yeah, absolutely. And this is where when someone makes a joke and it's off or something like that, or yeah, you can lose everyone because you thought it was funny, didn't quite get it. Oh yeah. There's a risk. You can come back from it. And there are ways to do it, to walk it back. Yeah. But you have to have noticed that it's happened. So he would have had to seen through the TV and gone, for anyone who's, you know, listening there who thinks that, I love my wife. I've loved my wife since I was, 20 years old. I adore her. So much. You know, he could have walked it back, couldn't he? Yeah.
He seems quite sweet otherwise, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the guy, but yes. So it is possible to walk it back, but you have to pace and lead it back. It is all doable. But the best thing, if you walk in there and you love your audience and you see only the best in them and you allow them to be them in whatever way they are, with no judgment, criticism, nothing like that. You don't have to be a certain way. That is very compelling for a speaker. Yeah. It's not a sense of you're not welcome in here kind of thing. Another reason is the credibility. So how do you make them like you?
Sorry, Jess, can I just ask, how do you convey your love for your audience when you walk into the room?
Walk in heart first. That's a really big one.
I mean, what would you do? What would you say?
You don't say anything. This is interesting. We've got a technique for what you should say. But even if you just know that you're about to speak to a group of people, for example, what I did this morning was it's very easy to get in my head and think about stupid technology and things like that. But what I do is I take time to go off and just stand away from the computer and I just think about everyone that's signed up for today. And I just hope they're all feeling really excited. And I just think about them in that way of, I really hope you feel relaxed and I hope you're not nervous. And I just hope that you have a lovely time. I want you to have a lovely time. And I just kind of feel my love for everybody, and that there will be people that are a bit nervous and they have their cameras off, and that's okay. It doesn't mean anything, you know what I mean? There might be people who take one look at me and go, no, not interested. That's okay. I love them as well. Do you sort of mean? Just taking that moment to feel it, that's the key, and then it's going to come out of you when you talk and you choose your words and so on. That makes sense. It's not necessarily an actual technique per se, but just the reason I asked you if you've ever lost, a trainer's lost you before. One of the things I will tell when I'm training trainers, one of the things I will say, never get cross with your audience. Never have an argument with somebody in your audience. The moment that you start arguing, the moment that you criticize them, the moment that you can imagine, let's say a trainer, because it's unlikely a speaker's going to do this, but the moment somebody kind of goes, can you stop talking at the back there? Immediately, in fact, Gita, where are you? Where's Gita? Still here?
She had to go.
Because Gita, oh my goodness, I was doing a prac course in Ghana, and people were very chatty in that group, really chatty, and I couldn't get. I was trying to get the end of the day wrapped up and everything, and people were talking. So I literally just said, guys, could you just stop talking for a minute, just so I can get this finished so that we can all go. Now, even that, in the way that I said that, was taken as quite an insulting way to talk to them. And Gita was the one that came up to me at the end of the session and said, I really didn't like the way that you spoke to us, Jess. Right? This was I don't know, day 3 or something. We weren't all brand new. She said, I really didn't like the way that you spoke to us. It made me feel like I was at school and you were telling us off. And I was just mortified. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. that's awful. I would never. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd never tell you off. That's awful. I was just asking for, for some quiet so I could get this finished. Oh my God. And I couldn't believe it. But I was so grateful that she'd come to me, right, and told me. And then I could say, I'm so sorry if that came across like I was telling you off, because I so wasn't. I think it was just like loud. I was trying to get everyone's attention so we could finish off the day. I was so grateful to her for saying something. So yeah, you can lose somebody and then not know why. At least she told me how they were feeling, her group. I'm so good. So yeah, it can happen, but don't ever get cross. Like, I wasn't cross. I just asked them to be quiet. But that can be seen as criticism, the same thing. So yeah, so don't get cross, don't argue. You have to let people have their reaction to you, whatever that is. It's okay. Obviously, if somebody's like hurling tomatoes at you, then obviously that's great that you're having that reaction. Maybe you can have that reaction outside. That would be great, because it's not appropriate. Or if it's obstructing the learning of other people, then yes, okay, you have to do something about it. But if nobody's obstructing the learning, then yeah, let's just let them be them. So love thy audience. Sorry. Credibility. Obviously, you have to make sure that people know that you've got a solution and that there's something that they can learn or get from you, and that you're willing to give it. That's really important. I would say more important than telling anybody your credibility, just know it. So you don't have to list your credentials, because that's quite annoying, really, is having to list your credentials. But if you at least stand there and think, why am I the person speaking? And you know why you're the person speaking, that will usually come across in the confidence that you have. Does that make sense? And then you can mention bits that you think are relevant. But that's another one. And empathy. If I've ever had a reaction, I remember speaking at, again, another NLP course for corporates. Again, they weren't sure what they were going to get. And I started with the opening gambit around, anything being possible. And one guy just literally folded his arms, sat back and said, that is total bollocks. And at that moment, I'm like, okay, fine. And I had to have empathy for where he was coming from. And because it's not my first rodeo, it was like, yeah, I hear you. It can sound like total nonsense when you've not come across it before. I get it. And that's why, and that's why I'm going to show you the science. Yeah, so it's not woo-woo. I'm going to show you the science, because I didn't believe it either. And you just empathise with where they're at and pace and lead again. Does that make sense? And then at least they're like, okay, cool, she didn't wig out that I told her I didn't agree with her. Obviously, I like it when people say, yes, I'm rather challenged by that notion. Perhaps we could talk about it a little bit. That's always nicer. But if it comes out as, I disagree, or that's nonsense, that's fine. Okay, they're the audience. They're not required to have it come out in the nice way that I like it. Yeah. So you work with it. Another way to think about it is this is somebody told me this years ago, like every disagreement is a buying signal. Has anybody heard that phrase before? Yeah, every objection is a buying signal. Because if you don't like something enough, you just will vote with your feet and walk away. If you've engaged with it enough to say I disagree, you're open, yeah? Otherwise, you just switch off. So the buying signal, i.e. the buying I'm open to the idea, is I disagree, convince me kind of thing. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's an invitation. So never be put off that someone is vocal, because when you turn them around, they're going to be your biggest fan. And they'll probably sell everybody else. And when I've seen trainers, because again, I've trained so many, when I see them have an argument with somebody, right, somebody goes, I disagree. And they go, well, we'll just have to agree to disagree then. No, use the pace and lead. Because if you leave it there, everybody else kind of goes, oh, maybe they don't believe it enough then. If you take time to work with that person to help them see it and transform them, everybody's convinced. So again, it's a nice skill to have. I wouldn't be able to do it without NLP, obviously, because if all of you that have got it know about reframing and pacing and leading, and that's the facilitation skill, right? That being able to take people where they're at, no matter where they're at, and help them to get to a really good place at the end of the day. So here's the technique that I want you to practice now. Okay, a few minutes. It's called Some of You. And this is the best way to build rapport with a group that you have no idea about. And this is how you're going to do it. So for your talk, so think about your talk that you're going to do and think about who might be in your audience. And all you've got to do is categorize that audience into 3 foolproof categories. So with presentations, the 3 categories of people that might be in my audience in relation to presentations could be people who are totally phobic and hate them. Then there might be a group of people that are like, no, they're okay. I don't really like doing them, but I will. But I maybe don't know quite what I'm doing. And then there are people that, yeah, I don't mind it. Like, I do them all the time. Yeah, they're okay. Or I love them. So that's kind of picked up everybody, yeah? There will be outliers, so you need to speak to those people. Because, and I'll give you the reason why you want to speak to the outliers as well. In one of the presentations that a delegate did on my course, he was talking about convincing people to get into marathon running. Right? It was just something that he wanted to share with everybody, wanted to say, encourage everybody to do marathon running. Now, I happen to know that there was a triathlete in the room who was like, you know, really sort of top class triathlete. And their opening gambit was, in this presentation, was, now, we can all be a little bit couch potato. So I want to convince you to start marathon running. Now, I saw the person, you know, the triathlete, visibly like fold arms, sit back, like, you are not speaking to me. I do not, identify with that grouping, and lost that person altogether. And at that point, what you don't want to do is make that person feel insulted, for starters, because you're now talking, patronising that person, not patronising everyone else, but that person you are. But also, you don't want to lose rapport with that person, because that person could have been your biggest advocate for helping prove your point. But now their ego may very well work against you because you've belittled them in that sense in their own mind. So what you need to imagine is, if you're talking about, encouraging people to do marathon running, you have to assume that there are people better at it in the room than you are. That there are people that have done, multiple marathons, or the ultrathons or whatever it might be, all the way through to people who will never do one, do not want to do one, and mention those in some of you. Yeah. So, because you can't assume, like, even on this, you can't assume that, there is likely to be here, and I know that there are professional paid speakers in this room with us today. So I've gone very careful in my language to include everyone and assume that if they already know it, great, but I'm not talking down to anybody, I'm not patronising anybody, that there's always something else that you can learn and always something else you can prove. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to hit everyone so that there's nobody in the room that's like, oh, this isn't for me. Yeah. So the sum of you is just, can you categorise your audience really, really well, in that you've picked up literally everybody, but not 500 categories. 3, maybe 4, maximum 4. So what would be your 3 categories? Yeah.
Jess?
Yes.
To ask a question on that, are we talking about, like, for example, for my presentation, my managers, senior leaders, HR, or are we talking about, there's always going to be a cynical bunch in the group, and there's going to be advocates in the group, or there's going to be those people that are not nonplussed? Do you see what I mean?
So this is where you get to decide, given the presentation you're going to do to the audience are going to do it too, what do you need to do? So if I'm doing presentation training for a company and people have been assigned to do it, there are going to be people in that room who have thrown up that very morning, maybe thought about calling in sick. There will also be people in that room who are senior, who may be a little bit insulted that they've been sent on a foundational course, or a bit confused, or a bit, resistant, and worried that I might embarrass them. Yeah, because they're supposed to be, especially people who have status, that might be embarrassed that they don't do a good job. Yeah. So everybody, I have to think who's going to be there. And I know that this is the technique where I get to tell those people, it's okay, I know you're here, but I'm not going to single anybody out. So I did a communications course once, and this guy had been sent on it who was a bully, as in, not he was a bully, but he'd been accused of bullying from his workplace. So they chucked him on this communication skills course. And as I was opening the room, I noticed he was really reticent. He wouldn't make eye contact with me. His body language was like really resistant. And I just thought, oh, I wonder if he's been sent here, like if he's got a bit of a fear here of doesn't want to be here. And all I did is I added it to the sum of you. So I did a very special some of you just for him. So I said, now some of you might not want to be here. Some of you might have a million other things that you'd rather be doing today than this course. And I am so grateful that you are here. And I'm going to do my absolute damnedest to make sure you have the best time and that you get something out of it for yourself. And the minute that I'd said, some of you just don't want to be here, like I'm sure some of you just rather not be here, he made eye contact with me for the first time. And that was when you kind of like, I see you, and it's okay. So that's sometimes how you can bring people in by not going, oh, you look like you don't want to be here. Well, some of you might have been dragged here and have no idea why you're here, and some of you might not want to be here. Some of you have got so many things going on right now that this was the last thing that you really needed to do today. And I'm so grateful that you're here. I respect your time. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this is the best use of your time today. That way, okay, it's okay that I feel like this isn't what I want to do today. She's made it okay for me to feel those feelings. So now, I'm welcome in this room. She just made me feel welcome in this room now, and now I can relax. I don't have to pretend or try and send the message telepathically to her that I don't want to be here. She's okay.
So this happens in leadership development, that, you know, however the company's positioned it, it's mandatory, it's not mandatory, you know, it's field development, whatever, you know, and then there's somebody walks in and they introduce themselves as having 40 years management experience, and they go and they look at you like, what? They don't say it, but you can feel it off them. What are you going to teach me? You know, and then to deal with that resistance, like you just described straight off, just welcome all of that experience in the room. That's going to be helpful to everyone. And I love how peers love to learn from peers. Please don't keep your experience in the bag. Let's have it. Let's use it, you know.
And this is absolutely right, and we appreciate it when someone does it for us, and I think that's the thing. You've got to protect people's egos, because you don't if you're external to the company, you don't know what goes on. You know, sales and marketing in the same course, they hate each other, like you don't know that. So so you have to read the room, like vibes, and see how people are responding. But if you can use this technique all the way through a training, a presentation, if you're not sure what your audience is thinking, but you're getting a sense that, for example, if somebody does the whole body language, like, you know, does the whole face, you can say, some of you might be thinking, what a load of shit does, right? And I thought exactly the same thing when I first said it too. And you make it okay for them to think that, and then you bring them back in. Okay. Yeah, so some of you, absolute game changer. If you say there's some of you right up front, in which case, so what are you going to get out of the day? So some of you, if you're scared and, you know, really worried about presenting, welcome. What you're going to get out of the 2 days is a foolproof template that works every time. So you don't need to think about anything else other than just making sure you've got a fantastic presentation and getting more comfortable in doing it this weekend. And so on, all the way up to, if you're a paid professional speaker, I want to challenge you to go to the next level and push whatever comfort zone you avoid, right? To find that space where you know you could be doing it, but you don't do enough of it because you're still a little bit unsure about it. Push your comfort zone. So for some of you, is also in the template. So you can't forget to use it because it's actually there in the template for you already. So there we go. There's a good example of it. I think this is in the manual though, so you've got that as well. So in which case, so don't just say some of you might be thinking this and then don't finish it. Give them the last bit. All right, so we're going to do storytelling tomorrow. So what I want to do for now is just give you some idea of what to do this evening. So if you do want to do anything tonight, my recommendation would be just scan through the rest of the workbook just to kind of format your unconscious mind on what's to come. Think about a story that would demonstrate your whole kind of 7-minute talk that would really conveys everything that you want to say. That, for example, if it's this, what you've learned as an earthling, your biggest learning, when did you have it? What was the moment that you had it? Like what was the experience that you had? Just one. That moment of truth, we call it. So start thinking about what the story is that you would tell. You don't have to shape it, we'll do it tomorrow. And think about the template that we've got at the end of the book, the bigger template. For every why, what, how, what if, there's a section that says bring it to life. Like, how are you going to bring this bit to life? If you're going to tell stories, that's fine, absolutely valid. If you want to try some audience participation, yeah, do that. If you want to do a demonstration, do that. You know, I'll show you some tomorrow morning of some really fantastic TEDx talks that got that kind of thing in it. Whatever you want to do, just think, how can I make it savvy? How can I make it fun for me? What would you like? You know, I remember people walking in and putting a potato like on the desk and then talking, and everyone's like, what's the potato for? And then they would reveal it at some point, like a hook, you know, like in social media. So that's start thinking about the stories that you want to tell, okay, for tomorrow. And if you're in the Facebook group, I'll keep an eye on it tonight. So if you have any questions, then you can ask them in the Facebook group, or if you've got the WhatsApp group with me, obviously you can DM me, and then we'll make sure that we're on form tomorrow. For now, I just want to finish with a story, okay, or part of a story at least, okay. It's one of my favourites, and I hope you really enjoy it. The clock was ticking. Her execution was due to happen in a matter of hours. The king came to see his new wife as she was decorating the palace and was so impressed. Thank you, he said, but it's a shame that you won't be here to enjoy it. Scheherazade thought quickly. Well, they're not quite finished. I have begun a painting of you, a portrait that you could show everybody who came to the palace. I can show the world how magnificent you are in this painting. You'll appear as the most powerful man in the world. People will talk about you. Your subjects will become more loyal. You'll win battles because your enemies will fear you. I like that idea, he said. You may continue, and then when you're finished, I shall miss you. So she began to paint. And each day the king would ask to see what she'd done, and she would always leave a little bit unfinished that would stay her execution just another day. On the 7th day, the king became frustrated with the time it was taking and began to rant and rave. And she threw her arms up in the air and began to dance. I have written a beautiful song about you, she said, and began to hum a tune and sing words of his magnificence. So distracted was he by her beautiful dancing and singing that he quite forgot to be angry and clapped in approval. I should like to hear how this ends, he said. And so you shall, she said, and left. And he left to go about his business. At last, she finished the picture and the song, and the king came to see the finished article. He approved of both and said it was a shame that she was to be executed tomorrow. Oh, she said, I was hoping to throw you a great party to unveil your picture to the world. Quite renowned for my parties, she said. And I would love to give you this as my farewell gift. And so she stole another night. The party was magnificent. There were games and jesters and conversation and music and beautiful decorations. There were plays and dances, and it was just the most wonderful experience. The painting was indeed revealed, and the entire party was in awe of how magnificent it was. But as the night began to end and the king was wandering over to say goodnight, she began to scheme. How was she going to get out of this now? We will find out tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody. I've had the best day with everybody. I hope you have. I hope you've had even a fraction of the best day that I've had. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I cannot wait for your talks tomorrow. Think of it like just a rehearsal. It's like a walkthrough, a run through. We're not like, it's not perfect speeches. We're just gonna have a really good time. And yeah, get in the Facebook group, comment what your best part of today was, and I'll see you at 10 o'clock tomorrow.
So much. Yes, it's been amazing.
Facebook.